Hello, this is Els coming from Bemis Crafty Corner, and today we are going to review how to do a pamphlet stitch. I've had a lot of people recently ask about this and inquire as to how this is done, so I thought I would give you a quick once through on how to do a pamphlet stitch and how to vary the number of stitches that you use. So I'm going to go ahead and get together some supplies and I'll be right back. Alright, so we have some tools. Now, in the interest of making this as easy as possible, we're going to be using a gutted book, okay? So I've got a couple of signatures that I plan on putting in here, and this is a small book, so I'm just going to be using 2 small signatures. Get those out of the way. A book cover that is gutted. I've taken all of the pages out of this, okay? A box knife or X-Acto blade, whatever you want to use to accomplish that. And to actually build the spine and to make this so that you can pamphlet stitch it, you're going to want a scrap of paper to make a template, a ruler, some chipboard, something to poke into, a pencil, possibly some scissors. You're going to want some waxed thread. Now this can be nylon or I prefer linen, waxed linen thread, but it's up to you, whatever you want to use. A needle for this, a needle point needle works pretty good because it's not overly sharp, so if you poke yourself you're not really doing too much damage. And it has a nice large eye on it, and you'll be using that to stitch it in, and then you're going to want an awl in order to poke the holes. So first thing we have to do is measure the book. I'm going to get all this other stuff out of the way and I'll be right back. Alright, so in order to start this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the book that I have gutted and I am going to measure. Basically, I use the inside liner. Here's a guide, and it's about 8 1/4 of an inch long, and then the spine itself is about 1 inch wide. So I have cut a piece of my chipboard to be 8 1/4 inches long and 3/4 of an inch wide, because I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch narrower than the book itself. And then I used some reptile glue to adhere this in. And before I did that, I took my scrap paper and I cut a piece that matches this exactly. Okay? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to clip this in on both ends, and that's just going to help to adhere it so that it dries. Okay? And I'm going to place this off to the side, and I'm going to deal with this. Now, you guys can't see it because it's white on white paper, so I'm going to bring in a piece of black paper. There, now everybody can see this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. It's 3/4 of an inch across, and I'm going to be putting 2 signatures in my book. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where I'm going to divide this into thirds. Okay? So for me, that's pretty easy. It's at the 1/4 of an inch and at the 1/2 of an inch. And I'm going to do that at the top, the middle, and the bottom. At the 1/4 and the 1/2. Right down here. And then I'm just going to draw lines through all 3 of those. So I'm just going to put my ruler on my 3 marks, and I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to do that on both sets. And basically now I know where my 2 signatures are going to be sewn in, but I need to know where along here I am going to put them. Okay? So for that, I will measure this, and it is 8 1/4 of an inch. Now I want to come in at 1/2 an inch on both sides. I'm going to mark here at 1/2 inch, and I'm going to mark here at 1/2 an inch, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll draw a line across, going across those two marks. And then I need to find the half point. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can just take the piece of paper and divide it in half this way. That's my half. Okay? So I can open this up and I can put a line down there, down the fold. That's my half point. Now, if I want to find the half distance from here to here, I can use the ruler, or can fold that back and bring that to my midpoint. Okay, and again, draw a line here, and do the same thing on the other side. Just fold back that ½ inch, and then fold this to the midline. And that's going to give me my next mark. Now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Any place these lines intersect, here, 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 this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, now become where I'm going to poke my holes. But I want to make sure that I have this absolutely right. So at one of these, at the top here, I'm going to put a T. That means that's my top. It's always going to be my top. It's going to be the top of my book. It's going to be the top of my signatures within my book. Everything is going to have to do with that top. Okay? All right. So now that part's done. All right, so I'm going to get the book back out here, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next portion. Okay, so before we talk about stitching a signature, and let's talk about how to build a signature. A signature is any collection of paper that you want to put together and stitch into the book. So for the purposes of this, I borrowed some paper from the Hags because I don't make junk journals, so I don't have a whole lot of different papers. I pretty much just use Hags plain dyed paper. Matter of fact, I use that exclusively. So if I was going to build a signature, I might take some things like deli paper and maybe some lined notebook paper and just kind of fit them together. Maybe I want to take a piece of scrapbook paper. Now, if I were to use scrapbook paper, I would stain the back of this, just some coffee or some tea just to give it some color so it's not like, white in my face. Maybe I want to use some book pages. So I would add some book pages in here. Let me get this one open. Add some book pages. Maybe I want to put this one way down here instead of having it up at the top. Maybe I want to put some coffee dyed paper in here. Maybe I want to add another book page. Whatever I want to put on here. And then, of course, I would measure this and cut it to the appropriate size to fit in my journal cover. So, you know, I would just take all of these and just fold them in half and add them to my signature until my signature was the size that I wanted it to be. And then I would be prepared to cut it down and put it into my book, okay? So that is how we build a signature, and I happen to have a couple of signatures already built and cut down that were cut for my book. I do need just a little bit more work as far as getting these as thick as I want. I've done them and then looked at them and said, no, I could probably put a couple more pages in there. So I'm probably going to add a few more sheets to each one of these. And then we will get them put into the book. So I am going to do that really quick and get the book out here, and we'll talk about how to get these in, okay? All right, so here is our book cover and our two signatures. And our template. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get out our awl and our foam piece. And you can see this one's got a lot of use. We're going to get out our foam piece. And I'm going to move these real quick. So, I have to decide what is the front and what is the back. I was real careful when I put this on to make sure that I kept these going up and down here, but you can see that they go in 2 directions, so it doesn't really matter which one is the up, but I like this one facing this way, so this will be the one that I use. So I'm going to open this up, and I have lined this. I did the outside cover in book cloth, and then I lined the inside with another piece of book cloth. And so I have my piece, which I'm going to put top, like this, and then I'm going to clip this in. And the reason I'm going to clip it in is because I want it to stay in one place. So I'm just going to clip this in. And then I'm going to take my awl, and I'm going to go ahead very straight. I'm going to make sure that my hand is straight on top, and that I have this very straight, and I'm just going to press through to make my holes. Now, there's a couple advantages to book cloth, one of which is that it's very forgiving. So if I use the book cloth and I go through it like this, you don't see like all the big pops on the other side that you would get if you used paint or if you covered your book in paper, where it kind of explodes through. And then you have to go back with like a marker and color that in, or it looks white. You don't get that with book cloth because it's hidden in the fabric. So now that I've done that, I'm going to take this off. And what I do is I use my ruler. Move the book. I use my ruler, and I put my ruler right up along my line, and I just fold it up, okay? So we're going to do this one first, the one on the left. So I'm going to leave the larger piece out here, and I'm just going to fold this up along the line. Make sure I keep my ruler on it. And that way I have a nice piece with all of my holes along the edge here, and I can put this into my signature. So this is going to be my front signature. Take this, and I'm going to put this in, just like that. And you can see that this fits perfectly in here, okay? So I'm going to put that in. Now, some people like to clamp this. They like to clamp the pages of their signature together. I don't do that. I just don't find a reason for it. But if this is the first time you've ever done signatures, then by all means, please do that. And I start in the middle, and I'm just going to press in. 1. I'm going to make sure that that's nice and set down in there. 2. Go into the next hole. 3. Over here. Go through this hole. That's 4. And whoop. If I move it, I just recenter it. There we go. 2 and 3. Okay. Now I have my holes in my signature. This is my top. I have a clip up there that tells me it's my top. Now, when I do multiple signatures, I actually write the number 1, 2, and 3, and write 1, 2, and 3 on my lines. All right. So now we're going to do the other one. Put my ruler along my holes, and I'm going to fold this up. Right along my line, keeping the holes all nice and lined up at the bottom. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be the next signature. So again, I'm going to find my T, which is right there. And that's the top of my page. I'm going to put this into the crease, making sure that it's nice and straight there. And again, I'm just going to take the awl, and I'm going through the original hole into my book pages. And there's my holes all along my fold line. And those are my 2 signatures. Again, I'm marking the top. All right. So now we have to sew this in to our book. But before we do that, I kind of want to show you how this gets done. Okay, so we're going to kind of pretend a little bit. We're going to say that this is the spine of our book. And these are the holes that we've popped with our awl. Okay, obviously this is a lot bigger, but I'm doing it this way so you can see. So if this is the center hole, you can start on the outside or the inside. It doesn't matter if you start at the top, the bottom, the second hole, whichever hole you want to start in. You start in that hole, you go through that hole, and you go up through the next hole. Then you go down through this hole. Then you're going to come up, go back down through the hole that you went down through before, and bring it back around again. Then this one to this one, this one to this one, this one to this one, and that's it. You're going to stop. Because when you come out here, it's going to be, your thread is going to be on the same side that you started on. So let me show you this. For the purposes of this, I have created a faux spine with very large holes. Now, at the beginning of this, I said that I preferred to use waxed linen thread, which you can use any thread you want to use. I like to use this because the wax helps it stick together when you tie it. But if you want to use floss or ribbon or string, regular string, whatever you want to use, even yarn, I don't care. It's up to you because it's your book, okay? This is friendship bracelet cord. I'm going to be using this. And so we're going to say that I'm starting in the middle of my signature on the inside. I'm going to come out, okay? I'm just going to clip this on here because the hole is really big and it'll just fall through. So now I'm on the outside of my cover. This is the outside of my cover. I'm going to go in through this hole. Okay, I've created one stitch. Then I'm going to go out through the top, and I have one stitch on the inside. Okay, now I'm going to go back through the same hole. The next hole down. And then I'm going to go back through the middle again. Because now I'm on the inside of my book, I'm going to go to the outside of my book. Okay. And then I'm just going to repeat that process the other way. Go in, come out, go in, and stop. Okay? Because now I'm back on the inside of my book. And that is where I started. So then I just take my thread, and I'm just going to simply go under my tail and my first stitch. Okay, so here's my tail and my first stitch. I'm going to put my needle underneath, and then I'm going to draw these ends against each other, and that's how I tighten this all up. Okay, so if I draw this all against each other, both sides, and pull them towards the outside, I've tightened this enough to where I can tie my knot. And then I tie a simple knot, just a simple square knot. Right over left, left over right. That's it. Okay? So once that's tied, then my signature is tied in. Okay? I hope that that is a good explanation for you. Let's go ahead and see how it works in the book. So I'm just going to get some black thread out. Scissors. I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to go ahead and thread this needle. And this is only going to be a single layer of thread. That's it. Single layer. Okay? I'm going to take the first signature. This is the one that's going to go on the left. So I'm going to make sure I have the book the way that I want with the right direction. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to start sewing in my signatures from the inside out so that you guys can see this the way that it would normally be done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle through and find my center hole, the left side center. And then I'm going to bring that through. And to make sure that I don't pull it too far, I always just use one of my clips, about 4 or 5 inches up. Just hold it on there. That's it. It's not going to go any further. So now that I'm through and I'm on the outside, I'm going to go to the top. So I'm going to go up here and find my hole that's on the same line. And I'm going to put my needle through, and it is going to go right back through my paper. There we go. All right, so I've gone out to the outside, I've come up, gone back into the inside, and I'm going to go back out again through the top hole. Okay, now you can see I've got one big stitch. Now when I come around this way, I'm going to go right back through the hole that I went through the first time. Okay, so I'm going to go back through that hole, and it's going to take me back through here. See, I came out in the same spot. I went into the same spot that I went into when I came up. And then I came out the one above it, and I'm going to go back down. Okay? I'm going to draw up the extra cord. Now, I have to go back down through this hole. So I'm going to take this out of the way, bring this up towards the top, and I'm going to drop my needle back in through that hole. And my needle's coming right back out where I started, okay? Draw my cord through. Make sure I don't get my cord caught in there. My tail. There we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing going the other way. I'm going to go down to the first hole and go back into the center of the book through the first hole, through my paper, draw it up. Then I'm going to go back up here to the last hole, and I'm going to drop my needle through. I want to go right through the paper and through the hole in my book. Through the paper, through the hole, okay? And then I'm just going to draw this paper up, this thread up, till I have it nice and flat, okay? And I'm just making sure that my string is nice and tight. I'm going to go back down through the hole that I went through the last time. And back out through my paper. I want you guys to see what you're doing here, okay? So I'm coming back through and going right back through the same hole, see? And then I'm going to draw this up. Now, I've come to the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this string down towards the bottom. I'm going to take my needle and fish it under both pieces. And then I'm going to pull one to the top, one to the bottom. I'm not going to pull this with everything I've got. Just enough to firm it up. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to put my finger here. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my cord. Just so that I don't have a whole lot here. Okay, then I'm just going to tie a square knot. Right over left, left over right. Okay, one signature in the book. Okay, so now we'll do the next one. This is the top. So we'll get the next signature out, bring it over. We're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to bring my needle and my thread in. I'm going to go through the center hole. I'm going to put that through the center hole in my spine so it comes out. Add my clamp. All right. And then we're going to move up. We're going to go through the next hole up here and go through the paper. It's much harder to do this when I'm showing you guys because I have to like let you see it visually. So it's at a different angle for me. And then back through the top, through the paper, going through the hole, and out to the outside. Then we're going to go back down. There's that stitch that we had earlier. We're going to go right back through that hole. Okay? And as you see, the needle comes through, and it's going to go right back through the same stitch. Okay? Draw it up, nice and snug. Then we're going to get the clamp out of the way because we're going to go back down through this one. So we're going to pull that up out of the way, and we're going to go just below it and through the book. Okay? You can see my needles on both sides. I'm going to bring it out. And I'm just going to go back down the other way. So I'm going to go down here. There's my hole. There's my needle. It needs to go through the paper. All the paper would be good. There we go. Okay, then up through the top, out through the top hole, down, back through the stitch that we just went down before. We're going to go back in that same hole again, back out through the paper again. There we go. You can see my cord is here. There's my cord. Here's my needle. It's going to go through. Okay. And snug. All right. So we're going to make sure everything's nice and tight and lined up. Bring my cord back down. Needle underneath both. And draw them apart. Okay? Once I have them drawn apart, right over left, left over right. Nice tight square knot. Cut off the end. All right, that is it. I have two signatures. I have nice straight lines here on the side. This is not part of my stitching, and this is not. It's the stands for the dress forms. See, very long dress form stand. But that's what that is. Those are the dress form stands. This is my stitching right here. And inside the book, I have two signatures, both stitched in, double knots, a little bit of cord hanging down, but I can do anything I want with that. I can add charms to this if I want, or I could just leave it, or I can clip it short, my choice. But I do have two signatures in this book, and they're really sturdy. They're stitched in there. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. There's no movement or anything in them. So that is it. Those are two signatures sewn into the book. And this one is ready to get pockets and decorated and all that other stuff. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. You can reach me on Facebook through my Facebook group, Bemis Crafty Corner group. on Facebook. You can also message me directly on Facebook. That's at Elsbet Talon, Elzbet Tallon. It's a purple dress. You can't miss it. I think I'm the only me in the world. And let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, you could just email me at bemiscraftycorner@gmail.com. So if you haven't done so already and you just recently found me, I appreciate you being here. Go ahead and hit that red button and subscribe. Like me, ring my bell, and share me with all your friends. Then your friends can be my friends, and we can all be friends. And that's what community is all about. Till I see you again. Bye-bye.